In the desolate landscape of a modern-day farm, where the sun burned hot and the nights grew cold, there lived a farmer whose loneliness had begun to take the shape of a silent, relentless beast. The land, once teeming with life, now lay barren under the weight of his sorrow. Crops withered, animals strayed, and the very earth seemed to sigh under his heavy tread. The farmer's name was forgotten, lost to the whispers of the wind that carried his isolation across the fields. His heart had grown as parched as the soil beneath his feet, longing for a touch of tenderness, a warmth to break the relentless chill of his solitude. The farmhouse stood tall and stoic, a testament to his ancestors' perseverance. Yet within its walls, the silence was so profound it felt like a living, breathing entity that fed on his isolation. The echoes of his footsteps through the corridors were his only companions, the creaks of the aging floorboards his only solace. His days were filled with the mundane tasks of tilling the land and caring for his meager livestock, while his nights were spent in a restless dance with the shadows that danced in the candlelight. The farmer's eyes grew hollow, his skin sallow, and his spirit as brittle as the dry husks of the corn that lay forgotten in the corner of his barn. It was in the depth of his despair that he turned to his sheep. Creatures of soft fur and gentle eyes, they offered no words of comfort, no embrace, but merely a quiet acceptance of his presence. Amongst them, he found solace in the simplicity of their existence. They grazed, they slept, they lived a cycle that seemed so much more bearable than the complexities of human connection. And so, he began to court one of his ewes, a creature of unblemished white wool, and a grace that seemed almost ethereal in the stark contrast of his desolate world. The farmer approached the ewe with the same tentative steps one would take when approaching a wild creature of the forest. Deliberate and filled with hope, he brought her sweet grasses and clear water, speaking in a language of coos and gentle murmurs that seemed to resonate in the very fabric of her being. He named her Luna, after the moon that watched over his solitary nights. Over time, Luna grew accustomed to his touch, allowing him to stroke her soft wool and whisper his secrets into her unblemished ear. He constructed a makeshift pen, separate from the others, where he could be with her, where she could be with him. In the quiet hours of the night, the farmer's mind grew feverish with thoughts of Luna. Her eyes, the color of fresh spring grass, seemed to hold a wisdom beyond her animalistic nature. His longing grew to the point of obsession, a desperate craving that could not be quenched by the meager offerings of his lonely existence. He watched her with a hunger that could not be satisfied, his heart swelling with an affection that was as disturbing as it was profound. The farmer's attentions grew bolder. He would sneak into Luna's pen under the veil of darkness, his breath coming in short gasps, his hands trembling with anticipation. He would lay beside her, stroking her wool, and burying his face in the warmth of her neck, inhaling her scent like a lover's perfume. The feel of her softness against his skin brought him a moment's peace, a brief reprieve from the ache that gnawed at his soul. Yet, even as he found comfort in her presence, the void grew, demanding more than mere companionship. One moonlit night, the farmer's need overwhelmed him. In the quiet solitude of the barn, he took Luna into his arms, his mind a whirlwind of desperation and longing. He kissed her, his dry, cracked lips finding refuge in the softness of her muzzle. The ewe, ever passive, offered no protest, allowing him to indulge in his fantasy. His hands grew bolder, seeking the warmth and softness that he so craved. He unbuttoned his trousers, his manhood swollen with a hunger that was both primal and profane. The act itself was swift and clumsy, driven by a passion that had been stifled for too long. He mounted her, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and curiosity, her legs buckling slightly under the weight of his desire. The farmer's breath hitched in his throat as he felt the warmth of her body envelop him, and for a fleeting moment, he believed he had found the connection he so desperately sought. But the ewe remained still, unresponsive, a silent witness to the depravity of his loneliness. As the days turned to weeks, the farmer's obsession grew. He visited Luna every night, his need for her escalating with each passing moon. His touch grew rougher, his actions more demanding, Yet she bore the weight of his longing without protest, a silent martyr to his despair. The other animals avoided the barn, sensing the darkness that had descended upon it. The townsfolk began to whisper. They had noticed the farmer's withdrawn demeanor, the way he shied from their gaze, and the unkempt state of his once thriving farm. They whispered of his madness, of the unspeakable things he did in the name of companionship, yet no one dared intervene, for fear of what they might find, or the wrath that might follow. And so it was, in the throes of his perverse love, that the ewe eventually conceived. Her belly grew round with the fruit of his depravity, a stark reminder of the unnatural bond that had been formed. The farmer watched her with a mix of pride and terror, knowing that what grew inside her was not of this world, not of this realm of understanding. The months dragged on, the pregnancy an unspoken secret between the two of them. He continued his nightly visits, his touch now gentle and almost reverent, as if he sought to make amends for the sin he had committed. The ewe bore the burden of his transgressions with a stoic grace that seemed almost supernatural. Finally, the day arrived. The barn was cast in a soft, eerie glow, the air thick with the scent of impending birth. The farmer knelt beside Luna, his heart racing as he helped usher in the new life. The lamb that emerged was unlike any they had seen. Before, its eyes were too knowing, its fur a disturbing shade of gray, and it bore a peculiar mark on its forehead that mirrored the farmer's own grimace of despair. The creature looked upon him with a gaze that seemed to pierce the very depths of his soul. In its eyes, he saw a reflection of himself, a twisted amalgam of human and animal, a testament to the perversion of nature he had wrought. The lamb was stillborn, a silent condemnation of his actions, and the farmer knew in that moment that he could never escape the monstrosity he had created. Luna, weakened by the ordeal, lay still, her breathing shallow. The farmer cradled her in his arms, his tears mixing with her lifeblood as it seeped into the straw. He knew that he had killed her, that he had taken from her the very essence of what made her alive. The realization struck him like a bolt of lightning. He had destroyed the one thing that had brought him any semblance of comfort. The farmer buried Luna and her stillborn lamb beneath the old oak tree at the edge of the field, the thorns a stark reminder of the pain he had caused. His sorrow grew into a deep and abiding guilt, a burden that he would carry with him for the rest of his days. The farm continued to decay around him, a mirror to the desolate wasteland that his soul had become. The whispers of the townsfolk grew louder, their accusations of bestiality and madness ringing in his ears like a cacophony of crows. Yet, amidst the ruin, he found a strange sort of peace, for in his depravity, he had discovered the true cost of solitude, a price paid in blood and innocence lost.